thank you very much for coming. I think that we have a standing room only crowd here, and we're going to have to begin the dedication program. We're delighted that you could all come and join us for this great occasion, the opening of our new art building, which has been so many years in the making and so many people working together. And I wanted to ask everybody to, after the dedication ceremony, to join us for the dedication of our work of sculpture for the new building out on the terrace, which will follow the dedication ceremony, and we'll be unveiling the work of sculpture by Richard Archwager. I'd like to thank my fellow program speakers who will be coming up here in sequence. Lynette Marshall, University of Iowa Foundation President, Gary Fethke, Interim President of the University, Anita Walker, the Director of the Iowa Department of Cultural Affairs, Regent Rose Vasquez, of course, architect Steven Holl of Steven Holl Architects, Dean Linda Maxon, and two students, Aaron Richardson and Heidi Kraus. We also have joining us Senator Joe Balcom, Senator Robert Dvorsky, Representative Dave Jacoby, Representative Vicki Lensing, and Representative Mary Masher. And we have the City Manager of the City of Coralville, Kelly Hayworth. And we're very pleased that they could join us for this occasion. Wanted to welcome some of our key guests, Steven Holl of Steven Holl Architects, who will be, we'll be hearing from him later in the program. Rod Cruzy's here, who is project manager at HLKB out of Des Moines, and we're glad he could join us for this occasion. And Kurt Blunk of HLKB is here. Rod Leonards from the its final form. One of the great things about the new art building is that we finally have a facility that is matches our standing and our national rankings. We're ranked in the top 10 of art programs nationally, and we have many distinguished programs. We originated what's called the Iowa idea of having art and art historians together and art education so that we make art and study its history and criticize art and so forth, and all together in the same building. And when you enter the building and you enter into the interdisciplinary forum space, this is where everything comes together in a community so that we can have discussions about art and everyone can feel part of the art project. We needed a new building desperately because our former building was completed in the 1930s. And long ago, we outgrew this building. We have about 1,000 undergraduate majors and 150 graduate students. And we now, with this building and the one across the street, which is being renovated, we're finally bringing together in this arts complex into a space all of our programs so that all of our students and faculty can work together. There are many other people that should be thanked, but because the program, as we have a very short time frame, we have to proceed with the program. So I would like to just go ahead and introduce Lynette Marshall. She's the new president of the University of Iowa Foundation.
Thank you, Dorothy, and good afternoon, everyone. It's a delight to be here. One of the reasons that my family and I were so delighted to come to Iowa City is because the incredibly prominent role that the arts have in the entire life of the university. And this makes it an even richer experience for all of us. And so it's a delight for me to have this as one of the first opportunities that I have officially to welcome you. As many of you know, the Art and Art History Building is among the 14 major facilities that were part of the very successful and recently completed Good, Better, Best campaign that was undertaken with the university and the University of Iowa Foundation. That concluded in December 2005. It wouldn't be appropriate if I stepped down before I reminded all of you that there are still opportunities remaining. So if you or your family or colleagues are also inspired by this art and architecture that has come together in this wonderful new facility, and you would like to have a hand in making sure that it remains the magnificent vision that we see today, do let me know or my colleague Margaret Reese, and we would be delighted to visit with you. So although the building will always bear the signature of our wonderful architect Steven Holl, if you would like to add your brush strokes, we can help arrange that. We're joined here today by a wonderful variety of people who are invested in making sure the university stays as magnificent as it is, as well as having wonderful local artists here, students, faculty, patrons of the arts. And one of them I know is a person who's especially partial to Rembrandts, but also to collecting some modern masters as well. So it's a delight for me to introduce my fellow colleague at the university, Interim President Gary Fethke.
Thank you very much. It's really a great day. You know that buildings and architecture shape and influence the way we work and the way we interact with one another. I've been fortunate to be involved directly in the development of 2 buildings on this campus, new buildings, and I know what powerful effects a wonderfully designed building can have on society and on the sociology of the way we work, on the place and its people. I also know, too, from several experiences, old and new, how functionally and emotionally debilitating poor spaces can be. So it works both ways. Our art and art history departments who create, study, appreciate, and interpret art are the fortunate and immediate occupants of this spectacular building, which are conceived and designed by Steven Holl. They are the immediate beneficiaries, but our entire community benefits, and as well as generations of future students and scholars. This building really is our gift to them, the future. To mention something that Steven will recognize and may indeed emphasize himself, there's a quote. It's on a building that's near here, and it is, "Art is long and life is brief." And I think that what we have done with this building is create a legacy for many, many future generations. A great building inspires us, and it helps us to see things in new ways, especially a facility like this, which draws us so much into nature and into light, if you've walked around this building. We will continue to learn and draw inspiration from this building for many years as we inhabit it. Steven Holl and his colleagues have created a beautiful and intriguing space for our faculty, students, and staff. This building will become, just as the UI has become a destination site for people from around the world. This magnificent building will complement and indeed help us to define our strong programs in art and art history. Their reputations, as Dorothy said, are now intrinsically linked. We all express our appreciation to those who supported this project and who had the foresight, really, to bring the best talent of the world to Iowa to help us define, in a wondrous way, why the University of Iowa is a remarkable community of people and places. Thank you so much. I have the pleasure of introducing Anita Walker, who was appointed Director of the Iowa Department of Cultural Affairs by Governor Tom Vilsack in 2000. In that capacity, she has served as Executive Director of the Iowa Arts Council, Administrator of the State Historical Society, and State Historic Preservation Officer. Anita was a leader in the development of statewide cultural vision for Iowa called Imagine Iowa 2010. She's a native Californian. She graduated from the University of Arizona. Her career has included 15 years as a television journalist, as well as positions in public relations, fundraising, and nonprofit institution. She lives in Des Moines with her husband and 2 sons. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's a real honor for me to be here today. I have to tell you that I had to cut an Iowa Arts Council board meeting just a little bit short. We were meeting up in Decorah, and you just don't know how fast you can move along on 150 when you're really determined to get here. But before I left our board meeting, I said to our Arts Council board chair, a young architect named Brad Lang, I said, "Have you seen this new building?" He said, "Oh, yes." I said, "Well, what do you think of it?" Now, this may not be the type of architectural critique you'd be looking for, but he said, Anita, it rocks. And I think he's right. Well, I'm here today on behalf of Governor Tom Vilsack. He very, very much wanted to be here himself. He was a big supporter of this project, and Governor Vilsack has been a big supporter of the arts in Iowa. Thanks to his leadership, we have the distinction of being only the second state in the nation to have certified cultural and entertainment districts, 2 of our very first right here in Iowa City. We have a cultural trust fast on its way to having a $10 million balance to support cultural organizations across the state of Iowa. And we have been pleased that the University of Iowa and the leadership here has been partners with us as we've developed this cultural vision and plan for our state. This is an extraordinary building, and it's a symbol of the importance and value that Iowans put on the arts. Governor Vilsack deserves an enormous amount of leadership credit, but I know we have legislators in the room, and I'm looking at several of them, who have been our champions as we have moved a legislative initiative forward that embraces the arts and sees the arts not just as a frill, an extra, the frosting on the cake, but really a driver in making this a wonderful state in which to live. A lot of you have heard me talk a lot about how culturally vibrant communities can attract people. And Lynette, you're my new poster child. I thank you very much for making those pointed and perfect comments at the beginning of the program today. And we talk a lot at the Department of Cultural Affairs about how the arts are part of a quality education, about how they promote prosperity in communities. But what is really, really wonderful about this building and the fact that the state and this wonderful institution made a conscious decision to invest in this tells us how much we value the intrinsic nature of the arts. Increasingly, we ask our universities to do more than teach, more than educate, more than research, more than discover. We ask our universities to really design and shape our world. And I think it is absolutely wonderful that the arts are part of that architecture. Thank you.
It's a great pleasure for me to introduce our next speaker, Regent Rose Vasquez. Thank you. Let me start by saying that I am very humbled. The building is beautiful. It is a testament to a lot of people's hard work and the genius of all the people behind it. I was on the website looking at the building, looking at where it was, and getting a feel for it. And it doesn't do it justice, as striking as it is on the computer. It is amazing when you come here and see it. So congratulations. I also bring the regrets of Regent Amir Arbisser. He was really torn about having to choose between a couple of very important events. He very much wanted to be here because it was my understanding that he's been on the Board of Regents since the start of the project, and now it's at its completion, and so regrettably, he's not able to be here. I, on the other hand, came on the board as the project was nearing completion, but it's important for me to be here as well, and for other reasons, if you'll indulge me. At a very young age, during those formative years, like 13, 12, I came to realize that I had no artistic ability whatsoever. I can remember it vividly. It was 7th grade art class. That's the time where we separate out into different classes, and the room looked very much like an artist studio. In fact, when I was up on, I think, the floor above, there was a studio there, and I thought, oh, this looks so familiar. Anyway, I was very earnest about my projects, but I could tell from the teacher's very polite but obvious body language that I needed to find a career in math, science, or law. And I was really disappointed. But shortly after that, or maybe it was before that, I tried out for all of the junior high school singing clubs, you know, glee club, choral clubs, things like that, and I found out that I couldn't carry a tune. Anyway, the years went by, and I was at the University of Iowa, and in true becoming an adult fashion, I decided that I would embrace art in the only way that I could. And so, like I think a lot of other people, I enrolled in classes that were designed around a person's ability to appreciate art, and I discovered that it was in fact a very good thing.
I also had an undergraduate school friend whose work I considered to be some very fine art. She was an artist. And I don't know how friendship struck, because I was very analytical and of course she was very artistic. Anyway, on a couple of occasions I wandered over to the art building with her. She'd have to pick something up or drop something off, or maybe she wanted to do a little work. And I absolutely loved to be in the art building, if only for the magical feeling that just seemed to emanate from the rooms. And again, they were so close, but for me, very remote. So that's my life with art. At this stage, it is time for me, on behalf of the Board of Regents, on behalf of myself and the Board of Regents, to congratulate you on this wonderful addition to the world that exists here at the University of Iowa, to the state, to the country, and in fact to the world. We are very much thankful for the efforts of everyone who has been involved in this endeavor. And my hope is that there will be ongoing efforts to increase that awareness, because I know that I've been enriched as a consequence of that. Again, thank you very much, and congratulations.
I take great pleasure in introducing our next speaker, Linda Maxson, our Dean of the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences.
Thank you, Dorothy. It's such a pleasure to be here this afternoon. I just can't begin to tell you how excited and joyous it is to see the conclusion of a project that I began working on shortly after I came to Iowa back in 1997. I remember well when we broke ground for this building in 2002, and here it is just overnight that we're finally occupying this building. If this is your first visit to the building, I really hope you'll take time to visit it again and again, because every time you walk through different parts of the building, you see a different character expressed in where you're walking and what you're looking at. It's one of the most beautiful and interesting collection of spaces, and you can see the building from different views every step you take, particularly if you go up that wonderful stairway and look back and around as you step up and down, and see how architect Steven Holl has incorporated the changing light into every aspect of this building. It's entirely fitting, I think, that this magnificent new space is part of the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, because the college is truly the academic center of this university. Our faculty teach almost every undergraduate and well over half of the graduate students who come here every year. And because the culture and mission of our college, a majority of those students will find that their educations are enhanced by this new building. The College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, in this college, the arts are an integral part of every student's general education program. And the School of Art and Art History offers more than a dozen courses, probably including some that Anita took, that Rose took, I'm sorry, when she was here. And they also offer these large lecture courses to provide opportunities for over 1,000 students who are not majoring in the arts to be exposed to some of the arts. That's about a quarter of every entering freshman class, to give you a perspective of the numbers, so that they all have an opportunity to learn about art. Studio art and art history are two of our most popular undergraduate majors, and Dorothy alluded to the fact that there are over 1,000 students who declare a major in the arts here, either as an art or an art history major or minor. So the courses that are offered by the school are really an integral part of the graduate and undergraduate program of many students, not only who major or who take it as for their general education program, but they're also part of certificate programs that many students pursue. The school's graduate programs have long attracted highly accomplished students, and for example, the artist, activist, and administrator Elizabeth Catlett, who was just named a 2006 College of Liberal Arts and Sciences Alumni Fellow. The multimedia artist Rudy Stern, best known for his neon light shows, or Ana Mendieta, a pioneering Cuban-American artist. And I'm sure that Dorothy could go on and on with that list. With us today are alums Ellen Lanyon, who's a distinguished printmaker, and sculptor and installation artist Vito Acanci, who participated in this afternoon's symposium. The interdisciplinary orientation of the school and many other UI undergraduate programs mean that students from all across the campus work with art and art history students and faculty. And as Dorothy mentioned, I believe, I specifically want to echo her mention of the importance of the resources of the wonderful new art library, which are used by students from all across campus, not only those who work in the school on a daily basis. And I'm confident that in the future, the study of this building itself will be part of a number of courses and perhaps theses that come out of the School of Art and Art History. It's a real opportunity to have a captive audience like this, and I'd be tempted to go on and on about this wonderful building and the wonders of the faculty that inhabit it and the students that come here to learn from our faculty. But I'd like to just take a minute instead and introduce architect Steven Holl so he can tell us more about his concept and design for this building. Steven was proclaimed America's Best Architect by Time magazine in 2001, shortly after our committee had selected him to build the building for us. So we knew that ahead of time. He's a tenured faculty member at Columbia University and has designed numerous buildings around the world, including the Kiasma Museum of Contemporary Art in Helsinki, Finland, the medal-winning Simmons Hall at MIT, the Cranbrook Institute of Science in Bloomfield Hills, Michigan, and now our wonderful and much acclaimed and much to be acclaimed building. Steven.
Thank you. I noticed that a couple people have commented on the speed in which we realized this project. And I remember my old professor Punt said from Spinoza, good things take time. They are as difficult as they are rare. And this has been a time-taking project, but for me, 7 years, it's really just like overnight. I have projects that have taken 13 years, one that's working 16 years. The other thing that's important to me to say, and I can't do the bullet points, you know, what about your career and your education. I want to make a point that a project like this is always a collaboration. I would always say that architecture is a 50-50 collaboration. You have to have a client, especially if you want to make anything that pushes the envelope. You really need a client. And in the case of this building, we had a 50-50 collaboration with Rod Cruzy and Nat and Matt Nieblum and the whole team. So if you actually take Steven Holl's participation and you divide it out, I'm only a 1/4 collaborator in this project. And really, it starts with the selection and people like Dorothy Johnson who fought all the way through. Every step of the way where there was difficulties, she could somehow immediately get former President Mary Sue Coleman on the phone, and Mary Sue Coleman was supportive. There was enormous kind of support that I've very seldom felt. And from Dick Gibson, the physical planning department, Rod Lenhertz, of course, Rod Cruzy was always there. My partner, Chris McVoy, who's here, and Martin Cox, Guy Nordenson in the structure, who's here. Everyone was really working. I was doing watercolors, but really this is a building that took enormous collaboration and a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, and not least, of course, the people who build it. Ed Larson, Travis Schwartz, Travis and Ann Schwartz, and I think they're in the audience. And we have a tradition in New York. If we ever achieve something this good, we ask, can you do our next project? Are they here somewhere? So really would like you to do our next project. That's a good place to end.
It's now my pleasure to introduce one of the very important users of the building, student Aaron Richardson, who is going to give his perspective from the student point of view. Aaron?
The most important quality for an artist to have has been defined at times as a capacity to isolate an aspect of life and to interpret it, bringing the larger outside world into a unique frame of reference. And yet artworks have sometimes been distinguished by how they stand in relation to the prevailing whole, with the exceptional ones redefining the paradigm from which their peers came. So it seems fitting that the centerpiece of an art institution be distinct in relation to its peers. A revision of form which enhances our knowledge of the world by functioning as a point of convergence for new ideas and talent. But this building also acts as a frame of reference which, by way of its form, serves to narrow the margin between the personal lives and the outside world. Its patinaed exterior embodying a distinct sense of its environment, this while simultaneously bracketing that environment within its many red frames. Thanks.
And I'd now like to introduce another student user of the building, Heidi Krause.
Good afternoon. It can be argued that architecture is the art most closely associated with the practical needs of man. While our professors might think us anything but practical, I would like to think that the students of the School of Art and Art History have been incredibly patient in the anticipation of a new building. We have, after all, endured crates on the floor for student mailboxes, no place to plug in our laptops, cramped bathrooms, and perhaps most appalling of all, dare I mention, being forced to walk across frozen bridges in blustery 20-degree weather simply for a cup of coffee. Now, as a student of art history, I am frequently confronted with the question, well, sounds great, Heidi, but what do you really plan on doing with it? This is indeed a sad reflection of an unfortunate reality ever present in the society in which we live. While it is a difficult task for me to highlight what this new building means to the students as a whole, I can speak to what it means to me. While I am thoroughly delighted with my locking mailbox, a plethora of electrical plugs at my disposal, large bathrooms, and a delightful cafe all under one roof, my greatest joy lies in the thought, the care, and the perseverance by those who wished to place student education at the forefront of this building's design. From the graduate carols to the installation of the best classroom technology available, the education of students of art remained paramount. In the brief time afforded me, I will not attempt to introduce the delicate matter of whether or not art should mirror nature, yet it is impossible not to see nature's reflection in Steven Holl's magnificent creation. We are, as students of art and art history, innately creative beings who, whether consciously or not, observe and absorb our surroundings. Make no mistake, however, that the old art building will always possess for me a fondness. Its walls saturated with decades of imparted wisdom and shared ideas on the nature and the purpose of art. Yet this new building signals a fresh start not only for the School of Art and Art History, but it affords us all an opportunity to revisit our own professional goals and aspirations. Sleek, modern, and organic, these walls too, 100 years from now, will have stories to tell and knowledge to pass on. Thank you.
I'd like to thank all of the speakers for their remarks, and I also want to take this opportunity to give a special thanks to two colleagues of mine who worked from the very beginning with me and with everyone mentioned here on this building. They were part of what we call the New Art Building Committee, and as I was thinking about their contributions last night, I was trying to think of the hours that they put into working together on this project. And over the years, it came to thousands of hours. So I'd like to recognize Steve McGuire and John Scott, who were so important a part of this building. I wanted to remind everybody that fundraising is ongoing for the building, and you can contact Lynette Marshall or Margaret Reese if you would like to contribute to this wonderful project. I also wanted to mention that there are a number of exciting events happening in conjunction with this project. There's an online auction that's currently going on of artworks that have been created by our faculty and donated for the purpose of raising money to help students. You can see these wonderful works downstairs in our new gallery and also visit the auction online. And our former director of the School of Art and Art History, Wallace Tomasini, is going to be hosting a special dinner and giving a lecture on the history of the school, and that is sometime in the near future. Now I would like to turn to the next page and see what we're supposed to do next. Oh, here is where I invite Gary Fethke, Steven Holl, and Linda Maxon back to the stage so that we can have the ceremonial ribbon cutting. I'd like to thank you all again for attending, and I'd like to invite all of you to tour the building if you haven't done so. We have refreshments outside this auditorium and also downstairs in the atrium. And I'd also like to remind all of you that we're going to unveil our work of sculpture by Richard Archschwager in a few minutes, and if you'd like to attend that, we'll be out on the terrace in a few minutes, and you can join us there. Thank you very much again.